Hi, welcome to Merch Money. Today we have Matt Lovell with us and Christina, who I was super surprised she's here because she's still having the internet problems, but she worked a miracle and was able to get on.
Yes.
So we both got to meet Matt at Midwest Ecom Conference.
Right.
I had to think about that. I'm like, was it Ecom Chicago? No,
Yeah,
Midwest
which
Ecom.
one?
So it was great to meet you. Matt did the presentation on insurance there. And you didn't even know about merch when we, right? No clue about print on demand.
No clue.
Where are you now with print on demand?
I signed up, and we're about 90 shirts now since about the middle to the end of August.
Can you guys believe that?
So
Congratulations.
It's pretty exciting.
So this is very part-time for him. He found out
yeah.
about it when we went to that conference, immediately set up an account, and now is already at tier 100, about ready to tier up again.
It's pretty exciting. I had no clue that print on demand even existed.
Yeah.
No clue what merch even was. So it was just it was great. The presentation you gave was great, and really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much. And we really enjoyed yours. And I was sitting there listening and telling Christina, I'm like, I wish I had known about him back when I was getting FBA insurance. It was a nightmare trying to figure it all out. So
Lots of agents that don't have a clue what's going on in e-commerce, the difference in FBA and FBM. And so, where people are sourcing their products, and it's a lot of maybe coverage out there.
Yes. That's the thing. Like, if you're going to pay for insurance, you want to make sure it works, that it's actually going to cover you.
Absolutely.
So it's important to have the insured understand what your business is and understand e-commerce.
That's right.
And you not only understand e-commerce, you understand Amazon, which is a whole nother beast.
Right.
So, well, thank you so much. And I'm trying to think how you want to start this. Do you have any questions for him right off the bat, Christina? Or should we just...
I'm sure he'll probably get into this, but I've always kind of wondered like how some insurance like this would work with regard to merch, and if it would, or if it's more for the FBA side. So I'm sure some of our watchers will probably, or listeners will be wondering that same thing.
Yeah, sure. What? I guess there's a couple of things that merch. Of course, Amazon, you're not a merch seller is not considered a professional seller. So by Amazon's terms of service, you're not required to have it. But I guess if you threw a design on a shirt and someone claimed that you had stolen the design from them, there could be some personal advertising liability there. At worst case scenario, the policy would pay to defend you in the event of a lawsuit like that. So, a policy for a merch seller would probably be somewhere $300 to $500 a year. It's really inexpensive. And somebody that's got a lot of designs that's basically doing it as a full-time job, not necessarily a hobby. Probably something they should really consider.
Yeah, that's, because I'm to that point where I expect a certain amount of income each month typically, and have been able to show that that's what I get. But there's, been situations where people have stolen my design, like you said, and put it up on Amazon and under like the FBA side. And in order for me to get those taken down, I was told that I would need an attorney. Wow. And I just didn't proceed with it, at that point. So, and then I know that, our accounts can be suspended or terminated as well.
Right.
So I was kind of wondering how something like that would work if it was, not, or if the account was terminated for some reason, would that be a continuing form of income while we were trying to resolve that issue? Or
no, there's really not any business income built into a general liability policy.
Okay.
And there wouldn't necessarily be any coverage to hire an attorney to, try and fight the the bogus seller or the seller that has stolen the right, stolen the design. It would be more so to protect you in the event that you were sued by another seller or another business, claiming that you stole their design.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's good
So
to
maybe
know. Thank you.
like a trademark. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So, in the event that you did something negligent or, right or wrong, you're selling stuff for the public, and you're always open to, to someone suing you for. We live in a sue crazy society, so
Yeah.
people sue people for ridiculous reasons these days.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go start from the beginning of how you got into insurance, and tell us a little bit about your company, about Wells Insurance.
Well, I've been in insurance for about 20 years now, primarily dealing with day-to-day commercial insurance, large farms. About 4 years ago, we had an Amazon seller that was in the sheep category, and we wrote a general liability and her inventory policy. And she came to us. She had been to some conferences, and she had been suspensions were the talk of the conference. People were getting suspended left and right. It was kind of the start of the real big suspension problem. So she came to us and said, if I'm suspended, does my business policy protect my, do I have any income protection or expense protection or whatever? And so, and basically the answer was no. Real quickly, we determined that there was not any coverage under her general liability or, her BOP policy to protect any of that. So we had a relationship with a managing general agency, and we knew they had a relationship with Lloyd's of London. So we went to them and asked them, do you think that Lloyd's would be interested in putting a program together to write suspension insurance for Amazon sellers? And they said, yeah, that's a great idea. So over the course of about 8 months, put the program together. It originally rolled out as a revenue replacement policy. That policy was very cumbersome. The premiums were high. It just didn't work at claims time. The claims team wanted to look at tax returns for 3 years history. As we know, in e-commerce business, what they're doing today is not what they were doing 3 years ago, or they probably still wouldn't be in the e-commerce, business. So it just didn't work. So we changed the policy to an expense reimbursement policy. We protect 13 different expenses that are on your profit and loss statement. And things kind of moved from the suspension insurance. We still do a lot of it suspension insurance, but it kind of moved to the general products liability within the past probably 18 months. And that's day to day, right? General products liability policies for people across the country and across the world. It truly is a global business, and so it's dealing with a lot of people from Australia and the UK that have set up LLCs here in the United States, and so it's pretty wild.
That's awesome. I'm so happy that somebody came to you with a request and you were able to come up with a whole new solution.
And we're actually revamping the suspension policy now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 30-day month-to-month policy.
Mm-hmm.
That policy is going to an annual policy, and with it was a 30-day, it's a monthly pay policy. It's going to go to an annual pay. So we're making some updates on that right now. So it is actually off of our site, and it will be back in January of 2020, ready to go. So anybody that is interested in the suspension policy, if they'll, they can shoot me an email or contact us on our website, and we'll definitely get back in touch with them after it's available again.
Awesome. And the suspension policy, is that only for FBA sellers?
No, I mean, it's actually for any seller that's on Amazon, whether that's a drop ship.
Is it only Seller Central though, is what I mean? Like, or does it count KDP suspensions and merch suspensions? And
no, it's only for The Seller Central, yes.
Seller Central. Okay. And I think with that, it is good to stay like that for at least for the foreseeable future, because the Seller Central has more courses of action to get your account back.
Right.
Merch and KDP right now, there's like no recourse at all. I don't think there's any way there's no set system in place of how to get your account back.
Yeah. Those would be the sellers that have the most expenses.
Right.
They've got the payroll, they've got the warehouse rent, the cost of goods sold. They're buying their merchandise. So those are the sellers that need the reimbursement for the expenses more so than the other platforms.
Okay, so if it was, because sometimes we sell on Seller Central as well, so you could do print on demand through Printful or through another company and link it up to Amazon. So if there was a seller like that, would that make any sense to do a suspension policy, or not so much because they don't have as many expenses?
Well, it just they would just need to look at their books individually and determine does this policy make sense for our business or not.
Okay.
So it's truly on an individual basis.
And you look at the expenses for the last year, or
they're true month to month
expenses.
Statement expenses.
Okay, so not like if somebody had bought a whole bunch of designs or something like months ago, you couldn't get reimbursed for that.
Yeah, you couldn't get reimbursed for that. They're going to look at real time numbers. Basically, there's 13 categories, and they would look at those for that month or that length of time. Take them, divide them by 30, and that gives you your up to your daily amount.
Got it. Okay. And then how does that work if you get reinstated? Do you owe that money back somehow or no? Okay.
No. It's once the check is cut, that money is yours, and the goal of the insurance is to keep your business afloat while you're trying to get reinstated.
Okay.
One of the stipulations of the policy is you have to go to the market and hire a reinstatement consultant or specialist to get you back on the platform as quickly as possible.
Got it. Okay. So the insurance lasts the whole time while that person's working on your account.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What happens if it just never is able to get reinstated?
It pays out for 30 days and then the policy is over.
Oh, okay. I get it. So only 30-day policy.
Once the policy reaches 30 days payout, then it's done.
I got it. Okay. Nice. All right. So that's one type of insurance. Tell us about other types of insurance. Like what's a general liability insurance? What is that and what does it cover?
General and products liability are typically both in one policy. They cover they cover a brick and mortar building for slip and fall. Somebody comes in my office and they trip coming in the front door and knock their teeth out. That policy has medical payments built into it to pay for that. Well, obviously an e-commerce business doesn't have that. But it protects your business if one of your products were to cause bodily injury or property damage to somebody. The event that you're involved in a lawsuit, it will hire an attorney to protect you. So all of your legal fees are taken care of. You don't have to go out and hire a private attorney on your own dime. That's all included in the policy. You look at the dog leash, that the woman purchased on Amazon. The dog leash, the retractable leash, it broke when the dog took off. It came back, it hit her in the eye, and it blinded her. That's a product liability claim right there. That seller, I believe it was a Chinese seller, but if it was a U.S. seller and that was your product, that was your private label product, there's no telling how many millions of dollars she's going to be awarded. So that's where the liability policy would step in to hire the attorney to defend you in the court, and then also pay out any lawsuit that was or any amount that the judge deemed awarded to the other party.
Wow.
So.
Oh, so many things that could happen.
Yeah, it really is.
So I know for Seller Central, it's required to have general liability insurance.
Right.
Over a certain dollar amount, or just in general?
It's changed over the course of a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Originally, it was if you were a $10,000 seller over the course of 3 consecutive months, and then it changed to the course of 30 days. And now it doesn't. The terms of service don't put a dollar amount. They just say if you're a professional seller.
I'm glad I asked, because I thought it was still the 10,000 thing. So that's even more important, because I mean, if you're selling full time on Amazon, you pretty much have to get over 10,000 a month. But if you're not, you might not realize that you really need insurance.
That's right. And as Amazon does, they change the terms of service, and of course they don't tell anybody, and you have to go dig to find it. And so, but that's
I didn't know that. I thought it was over 10,000. So, all right. Well, we're getting lots of questions. Thank you guys all for watching. We got Beth. We got, I'm assuming that's Travis, says Midwest Ecom. Tim Massey. Thank you guys all. Let's see. You want to cover the questions, Christina?
Sure. Okay. So this might be a question I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer just based on this, but what are the average costs for the insurance? I know you said the one was like $300 to $500 a year.
Right. There's lots of variables that go into the cost. Depends on what you're selling. Depends on how risky that product is, whether it's a private label product, whether it's a wholesale or arbitrage product. It depends on what state you're located in, believe it or not. And it also depends on your gross sales. So generally a policy is going to start somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 a year. If you're a $10 million seller, you can probably expect a $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 a year policy. As your sales go up, your expenses go up, obviously, and your insurance costs go up as well. So, but generally speaking, we sell a lot of $350 to $500 policies.
Okay,
that's great. That's
very affordable. Those would be the $1 million, the $1 million liability per occurrence, $2 million aggregate, that do, satisfy Amazon's terms of service.
Okay,
perfect.
Now the next question, I'm not sure if I understand this one, but I'm gonna read it anyway. It says, would it be better to sell the shirts back to yourself at a lower rate and send them to Amazon FBA just for insurance purposes? Or would that not matter? Only asking solely for suspension and or KDP merch combo.
I'm not sure that. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with
you. Travis, you're stumping us.
Yeah,
I think that's overthinking it, because you don't have to print it out. Like, even if you got suspended on merch, you would still have the digital file just on your computer somewhere. As long as you keep a backup somewhere. I would definitely recommend keeping a backup of your files somewhere. Right. And then you can put that on any platform you want. At that point, if you decided you wanted to print your shirts and send them to Amazon, you could. Or you could do it now, but it has nothing to do with insurance. That's just an extra thing if you want to sell on another platform in another way.
Right.
And then Beth asks, is there any type of insurance that covers small businesses that get chargebacks, where they have loss of money and product loss?
Not that I can think of. When you say chargebacks, are you talking about returned products?
My guess would be yes, either return products, or they don't specify here, but I'm trying to think of any other chargeback type of situation.
What about like damage? What about if you have products that are damaged? So sometimes if someone's returning something, you can't resell it. It's like damaged in some way. Or what about if your products get damaged in a warehouse or in any kind of way, if they get damaged? Do you have any kind of insurance to protect your inventory?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can write an inventory policy, a property policy for your goods that are in the warehouse, before they go to FBA. Mm-hmm. We can even write a cargo policy, an ocean marine policy that will cover them as soon as they're loaded into the container and shipped over to the United States until they reach your warehouse. Lots of sellers purchase those from whoever their shipper is. What they don't realize is that they may pay $100 per load,
Yeah.
You can buy a cargo policy, a 2-year cargo policy for about $700 for 2 years. So,
Wow.
Nice.
if you do several shipments a year,
That's big savings.
yes, it's a lot cheaper to go that route.
Okay.
That's awesome. Oh, Tim is so funny. He's always giving Jacob a hard time. Jacob, you definitely need chocolate insurance. What if it melts?
Just have to stick it in the freezer and then eat it then.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think that's how Ben and Jerry's got started. Totally side note. But they were like a new company, and their some kind of chocolate bar melted in the car or in the like delivery somewhere. So they were trying to figure out what to do with it because they couldn't afford to lose it. So that's how they made that kind of ice cream where it's like chipped off, because they literally had to chip it off.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
All right, let's see. Okay, yeah, I think there's a lot of, this is about returns. I get many high-end electronic returns. I think a lot of people are talking about returns, which is different than if something happens to your inventory before it gets to Amazon.
Correct. That's correct.
So once it gets to Amazon, there's no policy to protect it at that point.
Right. And most property or inventory policies, you're going to have a $1,000 deductible anyway. So it's not going to cover a $50 or $100 item. It's to cover you. Insurance is designed to cover you for that catastrophic loss when you can't go to your back pocket and write a check to make that problem go away. I mean, that's what insurance is for. It's for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And that's the way you've got to think about, your car and home insurance. You've got to think about it worst case scenarios. That's the same with your business.
Oh, here we go. Jacob is looking for insurance. Yeah, you need it, Jacob.
Yeah. And I believe you said that you do international insurance. So Jacob's from Canada. I'm assuming you could.
As long as business is registered in the United States, we can. If it's a Canadian business, we can refer to a Canadian agency, but we're limited just because of insurance laws and licensing to the U.S. and its borders.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure his business is registered in Canada.
This is what he says he's looking for. So I don't know if you have anybody you could refer him to or not, but.
You're talking for suspension insurance in Canada? I don't believe there's a product available for Canada.
Oh, okay. All right. It's registered in Canada. It's impossible to find online insurance policies here. Yeah, well, Jacob, it was impossible here too. I'm telling you, I mean, now it's gotten a lot better because there's a lot of insurance companies that have had the same kind of thing that Matt had, where people are coming to them like, can you please give us some kind of insurance? But it was a lot harder in 2014 to try to find insurance.
We've been in the e-commerce space for going on 3+ years now. So, which is in the Amazon years is about 20, but
yeah, it's a long time. I mean, and that's, so you weren't even doing it in 2014. No. I'm telling you, it was like a lot of phone calls to find somebody who would insure my business.
I'm sure.
But now it's a lot easier, and you know exactly what people are talking about when they ask things specifically for Amazon. Right. So, all right. So we talked about the general liability. We talked about, so what's it called if you're insuring the products in your own warehouse before they get to Amazon? What's that called?
That would be a property policy, but
property policy.
We cover the business, personal property, or the inventory.
Okay, property policy. What other types of policies are common? Like, those are the only two that I know about. Is there other kinds of insurance that businesses get?
Yeah, we could, if the business is doing any deliveries, or if they're taking merchandise from their home garage to the UPS store or the FedEx drop off or the post office, they would possibly need a higher non-owned auto or an auto liability. If they're driving their own vehicle on company time and they have an accident, there's a good chance that their personal auto policy is not going to cover that liability exposure. Generally, the higher non-owned is really inexpensive to add to a general liability policy. So that's something. Something a lot of sellers that are selling worldwide, there's a worldwide liability endorsement that a lot of carriers will put on the policy. And that way it would cover you if you were selling, if you were a U.S. seller on your Amazon, UK or whatever the Amazon dot might be.
Yeah.
That would extend your liability worldwide, basically.
Nice. I didn't know about that. How much extra is it to extend it worldwide?
It's a couple $100.
Wow, that's amazing.
In the whole scheme of things, though, it's a whole lot cheaper to extend it than buying 3 or 4 different policies if you're selling in 3 or 4
absolutely.
different countries.
And you would think you're only selling in 3 or 4 countries, and then Amazon adds a new platform and then a new one, and then pretty soon you're like, wait, why are my products in 20 countries?
That's we talked to a lot of sellers that they started selling one product and then it turned into 3 and then it turned into 10. And they started a year ago and then they wake up and they scratch their head and they're like, holy cow, we're selling $2 million in product and we don't have our taxes, we don't have an accountant, we don't have insurance, we don't have, there's lots of I's to dot and T's to cross, and they wake up and they're like, holy cow, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So we help lots and lots of sellers with that problem.
Fantastic. And I guess, what about insurance if you have any employees?
You would need workman's comp, and that's strictly based off of the payroll for that employee.
Okay.
And there's some defining language in a workman's comp as far as who's contract labor and who's an employee. If that employee or that contract labor, if they can come and go as they want, if they have the ability to hire and fire other people that could come in and work, then they would be considered an independent contractor. But if you tell them where to be, what to do on a day-to-day basis, they're definitely an employee. And if they throw their back out moving a package, loading it from one truck or one shelf to another, don't think they're, they may be best friends with you now, but when they're, they have to have back surgery, don't think they're not going to sue you and they're not going to be best friends then. So,
what happens if they are a contractor? Wouldn't you, what would happen if they pulled out your back as a contractor?
If they were, set up as an independent contractor, a 1099 employee, then, they would have to sue you, but they still probably wouldn't be able to get anything because you could say, look, we've got our checklist here of how an employee is defined, and you are not an employee.
Okay, so independent contractors are responsible for that kind of thing themselves.
Correct.
If they get hurt on the job, that's on them.
Basically, if they have health insurance, then their health insurance kicks in to take care of those bills.
Okay, interesting.
To answer Jacob's question there, I'm an insurance agent. I own an insurance agency. And we do. I'm an independent agent, and we deal with the whole gamut of insurance companies and underwriters, all the standard markets that write e-commerce business. A lot of insurance companies won't write e-commerce businesses yet for whatever reason. We try and talk to them every time I've got a marketing rep in here. I'm on their case about you need to get in here. Go to any mall in America. They're empty. This is where it's moving to. Look at how many sellers that Amazon adds a day. It's crazy. So, we deal with all like I said, all the standard carriers. And then if it's something that we can't write through a standard carrier, then we've got the brokers that we can jump to. And I haven't had anything that we can't at least get a quote on yet. So if it's out there, we can write it.
That's awesome. It's so like what you said about how there's so many insurance agencies are not doing this yet. It's so interesting that online sales have been going on for a while. I mean, 20 years or plus, and everything's so behind. Like the insurance is behind, the laws in all the states and countries are behind.
Right.
I was at a hearing in DC. I live pretty close to DC, so I actually got to go in person. So it was so interesting. Like they're trying to figure out what to do with all these different problems that have come up with online sales. It's like, I guess now's as good a time as any to. You would think it would have been 20 years ago you solve all these problems, but oh well. At least we're working on it now.
A common problem that I see with agents that aren't familiar with e-commerce business is they want to lump every e-commerce business, whether it's private label, wholesaler, or arbitrage seller, they want to lump them in as a mail order catalog sales, which is way wrong. Especially if you're selling it, those classifications work if you're a wholesaler or arbitrage seller because you're selling someone else's product. You don't have the product's liability exposure. But if you're selling a private label product, you better be labeled as the manufacturer or an importer for that product. Because if you're not, then you don't have the coverage that you think you have at claims time. And also, if you've got a private label product, do your product testing, do your safety testing, know where your product comes from, know everything that's in that product and where it's manufactured at, how it's put together. We had a case. It wasn't one of my insurers, but one of my companies, where they were insuring. We had a seller that was selling wholesale water replacement filters for refrigerators. They got to looking at and they had a really good sales wholesaling those. They started looking at them and said, well, we can go to China and we can have these made for much less than we're buying them for and still sell them for the same price. Our return goes way up. So they went to a Chinese manufacturer and they started manufacturing their own with their own label on it. Started having leaks, started damaging lots of floors in houses, and they didn't do any of the product. They didn't do any product testing. They didn't have any certificates where their product had been tested, had been safety regulated, or anything. And the insurance company denied the claims. They weren't big claims, but they were $3,000 or $4,000 a piece, and you get 10 or 12 of those, and you've got a problem there. So sellers have got to do their homework.
Yes, that is a very good tip, and also to know to spot check, because a lot of people, they get a sample and the sample's all perfect, everything looks amazing, and then once you agree to do it, then all of a sudden the products they make are not like that sample.
Exactly.
And the quality goes way down. So you really need to check pretty much every repeat order or whatever, like double check again, make sure it's still the same that you think it is.
Yeah. Now, I do have another question about small business insurance in the online space. Mm-hmm. For those that have websites, maybe like a Shopify website or just their own website where they're selling products and they're collecting customer information and things like that. In the general liability insurance, would that cover like a breach of that information? So if someone hacked into the website, obtained all of that customer information?
There are coverages generally in a general liability policy in the ISO forms. Those are excluded. They're not included. However, most companies will add those back by endorsement, and they're really inexpensive to add back. Generally speaking, less than $100 for the data and the privacy. And it's a little bit of limited coverage. Even though you've got $1 million general liability policy, you would not have $1 million to cover that exposure, but you would have some coverage to send out the mandated letters and to try and do some data recovery and if you have to go replace the laptop that's even if you had a laptop and you were at the coffee shop and you closed it and left it on the table and somebody stole the information like that, so if you're collecting personal information from your customers, that's a definite necessary coverage to have.
Okay. Yeah.
Good question. What other things should sellers be thinking about? So for us, most of our audience does merch and KDP and things like that.
Mhm.
I would think that probably doesn't need insurance. What do you think?
Probably not. Very, very limited exposure.
Mm-hmm.
For my merch store, I don't have a policy.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it full time either. If I were like the two of you, that's my primary income, my primary living. As cheap as a policy is, especially for a merch category,
Mm-hmm.
it would kind of be silly not to have a policy in place.
So if we were to get a policy, what exactly would we get and what would it do?
Be a general products liability policy. It would be $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate, which means any one claim would be up to $1 million in coverage, and then you could have up to $2 million over the course of a 12-month period, over the course of a policy period. You could have two $1 million losses. You could have four $500,000 losses. However, that number is arrived at. Go ahead.
This is if someone is suing you. That's what this is for?
That's correct. Or if you did something negligent to cause bodily injury or property damage. And I'm not sure how a design could do that, but
you never know, I guess.
You never know. That shirt could suffocate someone,
I guess
put it on a baby and they slip in it and the baby's suffocated and they sued you because that was your shirt.
Yeah.
I guess like from my point of view, it seems like since it's royalty income and we're not the seller on record,
Right.
But do you think that we would still potentially be involved in a lawsuit?
If it was a bad lawsuit,
They're going to try to bring everyone in.
They're going to try and pull everybody possible. Worst case scenario, yes, you probably wouldn't have anything. You probably wouldn't be awarded a judgment against you, but you would at least have legal fees to defend yourself.
Got it. Okay.
Even if it was just an attorney writing some letters or something. Attorney fees are pretty steep these days. So.
Okay. All right. So that's one type. What about if you have an Etsy store, Shopify store, and you are the seller on record? Is it still the exact same insurance you would get, whether it's merch or Etsy or okay?
Yeah.
So just be general, and it's just to cover if you get thrown into a lawsuit.
Yeah. The policy that we write does not specify what platform you're selling on.
Okay.
So I mean, it would extend to the whole gambit of platforms.
Okay, so one policy could cover you for everything that you need, essentially. Okay.
Yep.
That's really good to know. So if you have an Etsy store, a Seller Central store, merch, and Shopify, it's all one policy?
It's all one policy.
Oh, yes. Wow. I don't know if I knew that. That's good. That makes it simple.
That's right. Right.
Especially all the people we have so many people on so many platforms. We have a lot of squirrels. Shiny object. Try everything. So that's encouraging that they don't need to get a lot of different insurance policies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. One will cover it all.
Yeah. And would that also, okay, so here's a very odd situation. I think of these weird situations. I've seen this happen. So and I'm assuming this would cover that type of situation as well, where let's say that you purchased a design from someone else. So you weren't the one who created it, but you purchased that design, you put it up somewhere on a platform, and then later on you find out that that is stolen. Even though you're not the one who created it, you purchased it. I'm assuming that still covers you for that as well.
That policy would pay to defend you, yes. And then if you were sued by the owner and there was a judgment awarded that you had stolen their design, that's what the policy is for, is to protect you in that scenario. Yes.
Okay. And then what about as a graphic designer? So let's say that you're a graphic designer and you're using resources, selling those to businesses. So you're not necessarily like on a platform, you work for yourself as a freelancer.
Right. Need a professional liability policy. that just to cover that professional service that designer is offering.
Okay, so that's another type of insurance.
Yes, just a little different, but still cover them properly.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about that, so that's really good to know. And I think Jacob had asked earlier about contractors. So if you do have a contractor working for you in some capacity, or if you are the contractor, is that under that same thing, professional license, or what kind of insurance would you get if you're?
No, I mean, a contractor would need a general liability policy, yes, but I mean, it would depend on how the business was set up. If you were running your FBA business and your merch business and your contracting business all under the same LLC, on the same federal ID number, then I mean, I guess you could have several different classifications. You could have your internet retailer, your contractor class all on the same policy, as long as that company and underwriter are comfortable with with doing all those classes on one policy.
Okay, cool. And what's the best way that people can contact you if they have specific questions or they have specific needs and they have questions about their own business?
Probably the easiest way is to go to our website, well-insurance.com.
Okay, I think did I put that in the description? If I didn't, I'll do it right after. I meant to. I know I put it in the Facebook post.
Okay. And they can email me directly from there, or the contact us will get to me as well.
Okay. Yeah, guys, I would definitely recommend doing that just to see what you should do, what will protect you.
Right. And if somebody did want to get a quote, there's a real simple little form: name, address, phone number, link to the Amazon storefront, some questions on there about testing. Where do you get your products? Do you sell private label? It takes about 2 minutes to work through it, and then that comes directly to my inbox, and I'll get to work immediately. We've got pretty quick turnaround time. It's not instantaneous because we have to determine where does it need to go, what company wants to write that. But generally, within a couple of days, we'll have a quote back.
Fantastic. And darn it, I lost my train of thought. Christina, do you have anything? I literally lost it right in the middle of asking the question.
No, that's great. I think I don't know if
something
Jacob,
back in.
it looks like Jacob may have a question. If you do know of anyone in Canada that that you've connected with that offers this type of insurance, I think that's definitely something our viewers would like to know, or any other international contacts that you're familiar with. I know that we tend to have a lot of people in the UK.
We have a resource agency that we deal with as well, that they're located in Australia.
Okay.
But they have other countries under their umbrella where they can write in the UK and several other countries. So
yeah, we have people from almost every country in the world, literally. Like there's so many countries in this group.
Yeah.
So I would. Can they still message you and just in case?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to help. Whether we write insurance for them or whether I'm just a resource and able to help them with something. I mean, even if somebody just wants to have a conversation and get educated, and they've got a policy now and they want to make sure they're covered right.
That's what my question was. Thank you for reminding me.
I don't mind to review stuff. Yes, I want to write your business, but if you've got what you need, I'm going to tell you, look, you've got what you need, stay put. There's no reason to change. So we're not aggressive sellers by any means. I would rather educate and make sure you have what you need versus anything else.
Okay, before I forget again. So the question was, what happens if you change? So let's say you get your policy, and then we all tend to change and do new things and add new stuff. Right. So let's say right now you're doing merch and KDP, and that's about it. And then all of a sudden you decide you want to add a private label product that goes with some of the merch shirts you're making. So if you, in the middle of your year, whatever insurance policy, you add a whole new thing, should they just call you and kind of update the policy mid-year, or how does that work?
Yes, if they start, especially if you brand, if you're an FBA seller, you're selling home goods, and you're kind of staying in your lane and you're adding different home good products, that's fine. But if you decide to jump into the exercise equipment, completely different realm, yes, you need to reach out to your insurance agent, because some insurance companies are not real comfortable with some products. Baby products, exercise equipment, supplements, anything that's ingestible or that's an ointment or lotion or anything that's applied to the skin. Those are all high risk items, and Amazon designates those as high risk items, and they're more difficult to insure. So, whoever your insurance agent is, have some conversations with them. Hey, we're looking to get into the XYZ product. What thoughts on it?
Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad I remembered before we ended.
Yeah.
I could not think what my question was. But yeah, that happens all the time where people add stuff or change something. So it's good to maybe put a reminder on your phone or something, like every quarter. Just be like, does my insurance still work?
Yeah, we do like to have annual reviews with the customers.
Uh-huh.
Just ask some basic questions. Have you changed your business model? Have you done added any new products in the past year? What are your gross sales? Because a general liability is based on the gross sales. That's how it's rated.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to get, the customer's going to get an audit if they say they're doing 100,000 and it's a minimum premium policy, and they come back and they do 1.2 million. They're going to owe some additional premium, and they're, in lots of cases, they're not going to be happy because their agent didn't tell them up front that, hey, if you see your sales going crazy, call your agent and tell them, hey, look, we need to bump these sales up so I don't get hammered at renewal time with the renewal and with the audit premium that will be due from last policy.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
This has been so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll look for you. I'll look for you next week, Jacob. Travis, I appreciate you watching too.
Yeah, I have a feeling Jacob might be reaching out with some more questions. I'm happy to help. He does have another one that says, does someone need international insurance if they're selling in like another country, like the US or the UK? So Jacob's, his business is registered in Canada, but he's selling a lot internationally.
Are we talking FBA or are we talking merch?
Actually, a product of his own. So he recently started a chocolate business. So it's an ingestible.
It's all the chocolate, right?
Yeah.
I would want that worldwide endorsement on there that it would extend liability from that Canadian policy to anywhere else in the world. US and UK included.
Yeah, definitely.
So that would be a discussion to have with the Canadian broker.
Okay.
The Canadian agent.
Does anybody else have any questions for Matt before we let him go? Thank you so much I feel like this is really helpful. I
appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be reaching out. So just to kind of make sure, I mean, you just never know. And that seems really affordable. So just for that peace of mind.
Our slogan is be proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always want to be ahead of the game.
Exactly. Yep. That's true. Oh, Jacob's saying I'm trying to partner with Tim Massey. Maybe I can go under his policy. Too funny. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'm so excited for your merch journey too.
Yeah, me too.
I can't wait to see where you are after Q4. You'll probably be all the way up to tier 500, or who knows, tier 1000.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And guys, I'm getting a lot of messages about the pretty merch showing different sales numbers than your Analyze tab. It's like a known error right now. I think Pretty Merch is actually the accurate one, and the Analyze one on Merch is the one that's not accurate. So they somehow are showing the days wrong or something on the Analyze tab. So sorry, unrelated, but I had to get that out there because my phone's blowing up with messages. Like, might as well just cover it for everybody.
Yeah.
Merch is who knows what they're doing right now, but it'll probably be fine tomorrow, I'm guessing. So, well, anyway, I think that covers everything. And everybody, please make sure you go visit his website and get a review and make sure you're all insured correctly. And good luck to Jacob Topping and Tim Massey. Looks like they're negotiating ownership of this chocolate company.
Yeah. And for everyone listening on the podcast, that website again was well-insurance.com.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Thank you.